Hey guys, what is going on? This is Travis P11. I'd like to welcome you back to the channel. Today we're going to show you how to clean the Ruger pistol caliber carbine, also known as the Ruger PCC. Before we get started with that, I want to give a little shout out to Defense Dad and the Defense Dad channel. This carbine is on loan to us from Defense Dad, and so we'll put a little link to his channel and some of his videos at the end of this video. And we'll just go ahead and get started talking about the supplies you can use to clean this particular carbine. It's not very difficult. It does take a few extra steps versus, say, a bolt-action rifle, but it's not impossible. And so you don't have to worry about being intimidated, so let's go ahead and get started. Okay, so let's go and talk about the supplies that you're going to use when you clean this carbine, this rifle. Now, everybody likes to kind of custom tailor their supplies to fit their needs and what they can do and what they can get. This is actually cleaning video number 75 that you guys are about to watch, and I get a lot of questions about the cleaning supplies that I use. You know, what brand of bore snake do I use? What brand of cleaners do I use? Really, you can get by with a lot of different brands of cleaning lubricant preservatives or protectants. I like Break Free CLP. This is made by a company called Safariland, if I'm not mistaken. I've used this for a very long time. It's fine. It does leave a slightly, kind of greasy finish on the parts when you put it on there, but it does preserve them. Now, this is fine. This is great. I prefer Cleanse Oil. I started using this a while ago. And what's nice about it is it does protect, and it doesn't leave an overly greasy finish on the metal parts, but it does protect them. They don't rust. It keeps them well lubricated so they're ready to go. So we've got their Field and Range lubricant cleaner. We do have what's called a needle oiler, and what you can do with this is get in those little fine little bits and parts that you want to just put a drop in without coating everything out of the bottle. Then they also make some saturated wipes which have the exact same substance in it that you have in this bottle right here. This is nice for just wiping off the barrel, wiping down large parts without having to use a bunch of cotton swabs. Now, if you got your Allen keys with the rifle, you're going to be set to go. These little keys are going to be necessary to remove the charging handle, take the bolts out to remove the handguard. If you don't have this, but you do have a set of Allen keys at home, you're going to need a 9/64 Allen key or a 3.5 millimeter Allen key. Now, I don't know if those are exact conversions, but these are what fit. These are what is snug, and this is going to work. Now, when you tighten the bolt for the charging handle, you know, you can just tighten it till it's snug. You don't want to over tighten it. It's not going to come loose. The preference would be if you have one of these. This is called a fat wrench. It's made by a company called Wheeler. And I believe you want to torque the bolt to 65 inch-pounds. I'm going to verify that one more time. But 65 inch-pounds of torque to prevent the charging handle from coming loose. Now, other supplies that I do recommend. I do have some pre-cut cotton cleaning patches. You can cut up an old cotton t-shirt if you want to. We've got some cotton swabs here. These are nice for getting some of the, again, fine detail work. There are better ones you can get that don't fray out, but I hardly use these. It's just to get little strips of lubricant in certain places, and I don't use them so much that they start to fall apart. It's really not an issue. Now, you can use an old toothbrush if you want to, but I have just a nylon bristle brush that I use. When I clean off this stuff, like say the bore snake or the bristle brush, I just rinse it under warm soapy water and then squeeze paper towels around it till it's dry, and then just let the stuff air dry, because you will start to get a buildup of crud on these supplies as you do these videos. You know, a bore light is nice to have, so you can just verify that the bore's nice and clean when you get done. Not a requirement. You can just use a flashlight, but it's good to have. And then to clean the barrel, you know, you can use a traditional cleaning rod with a 9mm bore brush if you want to, and a bore swab, and go through it and clean the barrel out. But I prefer using a bore snake. I buy these and use these probably about, maybe about 24 times or so, and then the bristles start to wear out, and I just basically dispose of them. Now, to clean these, you can rinse these under warm soapy water. Just, you know, squeeze a towel or paper towel around them to get the excess off, and then just let them air dry. Because people will sometimes ask, you know, how do you clean these things? I know some people like to put these in a mesh bag and put them in the dishwasher. You can try that. I've never done that before, but that's essentially what I do. Oh, also, you might want to protect your hands because you're going to be exposing yourself to lead and carbon. A lot of these cleaners are petroleum-based, so if you care about that kind of thing, you definitely want to use some gloves. I just use some nitrile gloves to protect my hands. And then also, obviously, some paper towels are good to have too. So let's go and get this all cleared off, and we will get started. Late addition here to the supplies, you might want to have yourself a set of punches on standby. You know, you can pick these up at Harbor Freight. They're fairly inexpensive. You can get these at your Walmart or hardware store. Good to have, especially if you're just getting into firearms. You're going to find yourself using these quite a bit. Let's go ahead and verify that the firearm is in fact unloaded. Now, you can see I've got a chamber flag right here in the breech. We're going to go ahead and remove that. Verify that the chamber is empty. There is no ammunition in the firearm. Go ahead and flip the carbine over. Press the magazine release and go ahead and release the magazine, and we'll just set the carbine off to the side here. Now, when it comes to the magazines, we're not going to do a disassembly and cleaning, but if you want to clean a magazine, it's pretty simple. Just a basic, you know, just wipe down. Just go ahead and put a drop of your favorite cleaner on a cotton patch. You don't need a whole lot here. And we're just going to go ahead and wipe off the magazine here. You will get a buildup of some powder and stuff on the magazines. That can happen. When you get done, we're going to go ahead and just hit this with a dry patch, and that'll just make sure that we don't get any cleaner on the ammunition once we reload the magazines, depending on how you travel or move around with this firearm. Okay, let's go and give it a little wipe down. Okay, hit it with the dry patch. And we'll just set that off to the side. So the cleanse oil does leave a little bit of a coating on these parts, even though they're dry. Again, you're going to need to leave a little more lubrication on parts later on, but the magazine is good to go. Now, if your bolt just happens to be closed, you do have a locking lever right here that you can press on the bottom of the trigger guard. You just pull back on the bolt, press on this little locking lever right here, let go. It'll lock the bolt open. You have a pin right here that you can push forward, so you're going to push it away from you. Okay, it's going to go away from you about 45 degrees, and then just pull out, and you can separate the barrel from the receiver. All right, so using the Allen key or hex key, what you want to do is go ahead and loosen the screw right here. Now the screw's not going to come out completely, so it is going to stay in the handguard, which is a good thing. We want to go ahead and loosen that. There we go. And this will allow us to remove the handguard. Okay, so here's the underside. You can wipe this out if you want to with a patch with a drop of oil on it, just to kind of clean out any buildup that you have. This looks fairly clean, so we're just going to go ahead and set this off to the side. And we will continue. All right, for the next step, you want to go ahead and release the bolt. So just go ahead and pull back and let go. And we're going to go ahead and remove the charging handle. Again, I've got these extra long Allen keys. These work really good. You can simply put it in there and turn. Oh, it does have a lot of torque to it. Let's see here. There we go. There we go. Just go ahead and go counterclockwise here. Lefty-loosey. Now remember, the key here is to not over lubricate. We're just wiping off and cleaning and leaving some preservative on there. So using that patch that we used to wipe off the magazines, just go ahead and wipe off the charging handle, give it a nice little coating. Okay, set your charging handle off to the side, and also the threads on the screws. Now it looks like they did have some sort of a thread locking compound on there, possibly. I'm not going to put Loctite on there. I think the 65 pounds is going to be more than adequate. It was very tight, and that could just be something that comes from the factory. Okay, now after this, we want to remove the two screws that are right down here in the stock, so we'll zoom in and show you how to do that. Again, we're going to use the same Allen key that we used before to take out the charging handle. Okay, so go ahead and just start on this side right here. These are probably going to be torqued pretty good. Oh, no, not too bad. Okay. Okay, go ahead and pull back, make sure that screw is back all the way. Okay, we'll go and work on this screw down here, right behind the trigger guard. There we go. Now that one's a little bit tighter, so we're going to go ahead and switch the key here. Again, when I make these videos, you know, a lot of you that have firearms, you've got a lot of experience with these things. I keep the beginner in mind when I do these videos, so I'm going to give you a lot of little extra tips or things that you probably already know, especially if you are a seasoned firearm owner. Just as a heads up. This was just a little bit tight from the factory, so I went ahead and just put my finger down here and just right here and just pulled back, and then both parts are going to come apart. You can go ahead and just set the stock off to the side. We'll just wipe this out with a patch with some oil here in just a moment. Okay, we've got your receiver, your bolt, your trigger group, all that fun stuff right here. We'll just set that right there. And with a patch of oil, just go ahead and wipe off those screws. Again, if there's any kind of manufacturing grease or any kind of powder or carbon or buildup, we want to make sure that all the screws are nice and clean. Make sure you're putting these in a place where you're not going to lose them. And we will move on to our next step. Okay, so to remove the trigger pack from your receiver and your bolt, it's pretty simple. You're going to use your pin punch. You've got a pin right here and a pin right here that you need to press out, so we're just going to go ahead and press those down. Yeah, they're under no tension at all. Kind of reminds me of the Rossi RS22. Set those pins off to the side. Let's go ahead and just wipe those pins out while we have them out right now and while we've got the screws all over the place. Go ahead and just wipe those off. You might have a little bit of factory grease that comes off on those. That's totally cool. Okay, you can leave a little bit of lubrication on those also in case you'd ever get any water in there. You want those to be protected, nice and clean. Go ahead and pull out your trigger pack and just set everything off to the side. All right, so removing the bolt can be a little bit tricky. It's always kind of fun on these this style of gun to take out. If you look down here in the front, you see some ridges. This is a plastic piece. We've got a recoil spring that's going to be right here, and you've got this entire bolt mechanism, right? So there's a hole right here, and you can use that to put your pin punch, your roll punch right here in the hole and lift up. There we go. This little tab is going to slide up, and then you're going to be able to just pull the entire bolt mechanism back and out. So it's a little hard to describe, but it's easier just to watch it. So let me just show you what I'm going to do here. going to pull up just a little bit. It's always kind of tricky to do with rubber gloves on. There we go. So I just pulled up. So I've got like, oh, maybe, you know, 1/4 inch or so of this tab that's sliding up. And after that, you just want to pull up and out, and the bolt's going to come right out. So, okay, so as you pull up and out, your bolt's going to come out. Again, a little bit tricky, kind of wonky, but this is what it's going to look like once you've taken it out and you've removed it. All right, let's go ahead and remove that recoil spring. You can just slide it right out. You don't have to do any further disassembly at this point, but we want to make sure that this whole bolt mechanism is nice and clean and lubricated and ready to go. So let's go ahead and start off with that. We're going to go ahead and just put a few drops of cleaning oil on our brush. Just go ahead and start scrubbing. Now, depending on, it is, you know, it's okay to clean this off before you take it out the first time. That's something else I should probably point out to you also. Many times you get manufacturing oil on these parts, and it can cause some fouling and some issues at the range, especially if you put a lot of rounds in this firearm the first time you take it out there. This one's really not that dirty at all. Now, this front area, you want to be careful. You don't want to get any grime or any kind of oil down there. That's where you have your firing pin. You can just brush it gently. What I like to do is get in there with a Q-tip and just go ahead and wipe it out a little bit. Your extractor here is going to start to get a buildup on it, so you want to definitely get in there and kind of scrub behind it. There we go. You might start to notice like a buildup of brass and stuff, and that's going to be normal. You're also going to start to notice like the wear marks on the parts where the metal contact is, and those are the places where you want to make sure you definitely have got lubrication. So this actually looks pretty good. All right, so here's the thing with cleanse oil. You know, when you put it on the first time, it is going to saturate in there, and it's going to start to soak up all the crud and the grime and so on. When you go over it with a patch with oil on it the second time, that's going to be the lubrication phase. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and just wipe this all out. That second coat should leave it adequate lubrication. Make sure you wipe off every surface that you have here. If you're going to leave any lubrication at all, this would be the part to do so all the way around. Okay, that looks pretty good. We're going to take just a drop of oil on the cotton swab. This area down here, you definitely want to put a strip of lubrication down here because you can already start to see some of that metal contacts. We're going to just wipe that in there, and you should be all set to go. Now, I'm not endorsed by Cleanse Oil, but they did watch me using their products in a few of the videos that I did, some of my cleaning videos, which was Cleanse Oil was actually sent to me by a friend. And they did send me these supplies, so shout out to Cleanse Oil, but I'm not any kind of a, you know, I'm not being paid by them to use their products, but I do find they work really well. And I've got guns that I cleaned months ago, and when I take them out of the gun safe, they are still clean, you know, no rust, you know, no issues at all. Not really in a humid environment, but here in Nebraska, the climate can vary quite a bit. So just again, brush some CLP all the way around, and that should be adequate. Okay, go ahead and set your bolt off to the side. Now for this recoil spring mechanism, it's all kind of together, so I'm going to just use, again, a patch with CLP on it, my oil, and just wipe it off. Wipe off the sides. Same process, we're going to wipe on a coat of it and then hit it with a second patch, and then that's going to clean it and leave it protected and lubricated. You can floss it, so to speak. Get your patch under here, under the spring. There you go. You can see how we kind of got some oxidation going on there. Or if anything, that's some of the original manufacturing oil that didn't come off the gun the first time it was cleaned or shot. There we go. Now, a lot of people say, man, you leave so much oil on your guns when you get done. You can wipe off, you know, any excess with the dry patch if you want to. It's just I'm working with oil here, and you get it all over your hands. Okay, so this is good to go. We're going to go ahead and set that off to the side. Okay, so for the inside of the receiver, you have a lot of options. I was maybe just going to wipe mine off with a saturated wipe. I'm going to go and just take a patch with some oil on it because that's what a lot of people are going to be using. Go ahead and drop it down here in the center. And then using your punch or maybe a plastic, just a piece of plastic, whatever you might have, you just gently push down the center here. We want to get in this channel. We don't want to scrape it, obviously, so just go gentle in there. There you go. Try to be really careful here. There we go. Go ahead and just wipe out the inside of this. You can take a brush to it if you notice a lot of buildup or sand, or you start to see, you know, a lot of carbon and fouling in here. You can go ahead and take the brush to it. It's a little bit dirty, so we're going to hit this with a couple patches. This is again our cleaning phase, and then we're going to hit it with the lubrication phase, which is just to wipe it off one more time with a patch with some oil on it. Now for this front portion here, where you've got your locking lugs and so on, I like to take a patch with a little bit of oil on it, just get in there and just kind of wipe around. and that'll help get that area, especially if you got big fingers, you might not be able to get in there. So this makes it kind of nice. You got a one-piece cleaning rod, you can do the same thing if you want to. Just use your Jag with a patch on it and scrub. Get that nice and clean. You obviously want that lubricated, so it's good to go. We also have this channel right here. Just go ahead and give that a literal drop of oil on a cotton swab. You want to get that cleaned out. Any place where you can get a buildup or any kind of rust, you want to make sure that you have some sort of protectant nearby, some lubricant on there. Okay, now one last time, drop oil on a patch. Just go ahead and wipe out the inside of the receiver. This really does remind me a lot of my Hi-Point carbine, how that disassembles and what it looks like under the hood. Okay, again, make sure everything's nice and clean, has some sort of oil underneath of it, some sort of contact. There you go. Just go ahead and scrub it out. Okay, you can also wipe off the outside at this point if you want to, or you can wipe it off when we get done. It doesn't really matter. Okay, for your trigger assembly, kind of your fire control group, if you will, just go ahead and grab a Q-tip with a drop of oil on it. You can get oil in here and scrub it out if you need to, if you notice a lot of buildup or mud or dirt. But for the most part, you're going to be good to go. So again, Q-tip, drop of oil, just go ahead and wipe out the insides of this area. You might start to see a little bit of grease come out here. There's always that possibility. Go and wipe off the front of the hammer. Now put your finger in front of the hammer and press the trigger and let go. You don't want to let it slam home. Okay. Now this little spring can pop out, so be careful if it does. You just have to make sure that it goes back in this notch right here and that the shaft from the spring is able to go through this hole right here out of the rear. If it doesn't, you're not going to be able to fold the hammer back when you get done. So I like to put a little bit of tension on the front of the hammer. That's going to prevent this spring from popping out. Just go ahead and make sure it has some lubrication on it. Just get in there and just wipe everything down with some oil. Again, you don't have to keep it excessively oiled. It's no big deal. There we go. Just kind of wipe it all off. Okay, pull back on the hammer, cock it back into place. Now you've got some pins here. I'm going to go ahead and put a drop of oil right here on this side and on this side, and that's going to just penetrate through basically what holds the hammer in place and the springs and the trigger. Just ensure that it does stay lubricated. So I'm going to use my needle oiler. You could put a drop of oil in here if you do that. Wipe off any excess that might run out of the way. So put a drop right there, and then go ahead and put a drop right there. Okay, we'll go and flip it over and do that on the other side. Okay, a drop right there and a drop right there. That's one nice thing about having this needle oiler. It really gets in there and takes care of some of that fine detail work that you need to do. Go ahead and just wipe off the excess oil. Okay, keep your finger off the trigger and just set it off to the side. All right, so before we go to the barrel and get the barrel all cleaned out, let's go ahead and just scrub out the magazine well. Again, drop of oil on a patch with a little one-piece cleaning rod here and just get this all wiped off. Grab your patch. Just go ahead and wipe everything off at this point. Okay, make sure you got a protective coat on there. Might get a little bit of a buildup in this area, and that's totally fine. But again, you can see what's coming off. A little bit of grease and oil. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and put a few drops of oil down the rear of the barrel and just let that kind of marinate and soak in a little bit. Just going to push down and let that go down the barrel. We will be running the bore snake through this. To wipe off the barrel, now you've got a lot of options here. There's a lot of things that you can do. I'm just going to use the pre-soaked cloth and just wipe the whole barrel and lug and everything down with it. If you've got a patch with oil on it, you can use that if you want to. You can take a brush and scrub the rear if you need to, if you notice any buildup of any oil or grease or carbon or powder. Basically, if it's not shiny, it needs to be shiny and clean when you get done. So let's go and wipe everything off. Okay, this little lug here on the rear, get that wiped off. You're going to get a buildup where these feed ramps are too. Again, you can scrub that off with your nylon brush if you want to. And again, everybody has a different level of cleanliness that they require from their firearm. And you know, you might, however much time you have to put into the fine detail work, that's going to totally be up to you. But this is really going to leave everything nice and lubricated. Now I will go over this with a dry patch to wipe off any excess, like I said before. All right, for this next step, we're definitely going to back out a little bit. So this is just what came off the barrel. Just wiping it off alone, you can see you got a little bit of oxidation on there and some dirt and smudges and stuff. All right, so go ahead and take your bore snake. Let's go from the rear and go ahead and put the bore snake in there, drop it down. We're going to pull this through probably 2 or 3 times, and then we'll just check the bore with a bore light to make sure it's nice and clean. It'll come out of the end with the weight on there when it's all done. Again, you want to use a 9mm/380 bore snake. There we go. Just go ahead and pull through a couple times, make sure it's lined up. Okay. Won't take a whole lot of force to do so. So just go ahead and pull. All right, I'm going to run that through 3 times, and then we will come right back. All right, so I'm zoomed out for this next part so you can see everything that's going to happen. I'll try to keep my hands out of the way. You want to make sure you have a drop of oil on a patch, wipe off the entire bolt. one last time, make sure everything's got something on it. And again, as you shoot it more, you're going to start to see those metal-to-metal wear marks, so you're going to know where that wear is taking place. Okay, go ahead and take your recoil spring mechanism here and go ahead and just slide that back in. All right, go ahead and just slide that back into place. Okay, so for reassembly, make sure that you keep the arm up. Don't put the bolt on top of the arm when you're reassembling it. And we want to basically just drop it back in exactly how we took it out. Okay, so here we go. It's going to look like this. Go ahead and set that back in there. Make sure you guys can see that. There we go. Go ahead and press in on your spring just a little bit to get it to seat back in place. Okay, drop it back down. Go. You should be able to kind of pull it back a little bit under tension. Just ensure that you did it, nothing's binding and nothing's catching. All right, let's move on to the next step. Okay, so to get the trigger group back into the receiver, it's going to be pretty simple. We've got our push pins that we used here, our little pins. Go ahead and just push the trigger pack back into place. Drop your pins in place. They should go in with very little to no tension at all. There we go. Okay. Go just check the back side. We'll just set it like so. All right, so up next we want to go ahead and put our charging handle back in. I've got the handle on my fat wrench here. I have it set to about 62, 63. That's going to make sure that I don't over torque it accidentally, just in case the torque wrench would be off any amounts. So go ahead and put the charging handle back into place here. Okay, and go ahead and screw it in. Now if it feels like it's going to get, if I seem to hit a breaking point and it's not clicking, then I'm going to stop at that point because again, I don't want to over torque this and risk ruining the threads. So we're going to keep going here until it stops. Okay, it's not clicking, but I really don't want to give it much more tension than that. I'm just going to go ahead and hand tighten it at this point. You can go till it clicks at 65 if you want to, but again, this is not my rifle, so I want to be careful. Yeah, that is very snug. I don't want to pull it any further. Okay, we're going to call that good. Okay, so before we put it back together, let's just ensure that everything is okay. So you do have this button right here that you can press your bolt release. We're going to go ahead and just lock it back into place and make sure there's nothing binding and nothing catching. We're going to push that bolt release button. Okay, it's good to go. Just gently release the handle, make sure everything functions. We want to do this just to check it before you reassemble it in case anything would happen to bind or to catch and so on. Okay. Oh, and again, okay, I should probably point this out. You can torque it and put the charging handle on the right side if you want to. I'm going to go ahead and move it back over to the right side. All right, we're going to go ahead and drop the receiver back into the stock here, and we're going to go ahead and screw it back into place. Again, just gently drop it in there. It should not catch. It should just go nice and look just like this if you have it in there properly. Again, I'll go and just flip it over on its top. And we will go ahead and put those screws back in. They're identical screws, so it doesn't matter if you mix and match. You should be fine. They're the same length across the board, so just maybe go ahead and hand seat them before you get started. So something I like to do when I tighten these, I don't tighten one screw completely and then go back to the other side. I will tighten it about halfway and then go hit the front. This just ensures that you have a nice even seating of the receiver and the stock. I do the same thing on my bolt action rifle. It's not a big deal, but just one of those little details that you can work out. With that Picatinny rail across the top, that makes it very easy to reassemble. You don't have to have any kind of a gun vise or gun stand to do this. Now, I don't know what you should torque these to, so we're just going to torque them until they're snug, but we're not going to over tighten them. The nice thing is you've got these brass rivets or threads in here that you're tightening into, so you're not going to strip out like some cheap plastic stock, which is really nice. Okay, for the barrel and the handguard, it's very simple. Just go ahead and put it over the top. You'll have that little pin go in there. Okay, it's going to look just like this when you get it. There we go. And go ahead and tighten the screw. And you'll know if you're lined up because it'll catch and the handguard won't come off, obviously. So go ahead and tighten a little bit. Again, you don't want to over tighten it. I don't know what the inch-pound settings are on this, and that's fine. Okay, this is in place. Just go till it stops. One extra tug, and that's it. And if it's loose at all, obviously you know that you don't have it tight enough. With just a single screw, you really can't mess that up. All right, so before we reassemble the firearm, before we put the barrel back in the receiver, just go ahead and pull back on the charging handle, and you want to push the button right here to lock it into place. Okay, and then let go. So with the bolt back in the lock position, you're going to go ahead and put the lug back into the receiver as such. And you want to push up on your little disassembly pin right here. Okay, that's going to allow it to come together, and then just turn it across. Okay, we'll lock into place, and you are all set to go. Again, it can only go about 45 degrees counterclockwise. Go ahead and release, well, double check. Okay, we are in fact empty. release the bolt, go ahead and charge it a couple times. Check your safety, make sure it works. Okay, go ahead and dry fire. One more time. There you go, you're all set to go. And you are ready to go out to the range. Thanks for watching, everybody. This is cleaning video number 75. I do appreciate you watching and your time. Make sure you guys like and subscribe. I do a little podcast called Caliber Corner that we do Saturday mornings at 8 a.m. Central Time. Please make sure you check that out. And I'll put a link here to Defense Dad's channel, and if he's got any videos on the PCC carbine, I'm going to put that video up also. If not, I'll pick out one of my favorite videos from his channel. I want you guys to head over there, subscribe. He's a really cool dude. He's got a great channel. And I think that's about it. So I want you guys to have fun. I want you to be safe. And as you know, we will talk to you soon. All right, bye-bye.